So let's talk about a new kind of world war. And no, I'm not talking about grand armies clashing on a battlefield. This one is fought with sanctions, blockades, and economic pressure. It's a war for control. And you know what? It's already happening. Now, this quote, it's not some wild prediction. It's actually a scenario, right? It's built from all the structural, economic, and political pressures that are already building up all around us. The idea here is that the world isn't just going to explode into one single massive conflict. It's more like a slow, grinding fracture. So just imagine not one single war, but a dozen different crises, all flaring up at the same time, tightening like a noose. We're not talking about tanks rolling across a border. This is about completely neutralizing a nation, using other, more subtle means. And the first case study we're going to look at is Venezuela. It was once this oil giant, right? But now it's basically the test case for this whole new kind of warfare. Okay, so in this 2026 scenario, the strategy is basically two-pronged. First, you have Operation Southern Spear, which sets up a naval blockade to just grab Venezuelan oil tankers. Then you've got Operation Absolute Resolve. This is where special forces go in and capture President Maduro, supposedly on drug trafficking charges. But let's be real, the real target here isn't the drugs. It's about getting independent control over all of Venezuela's oil. So this all leads to a really crucial question. How did the world get so fragile in the first place? And the answer, well, it starts with a power vacuum. There's actually a term for this in geopolitics. It's called the Kindleberger trap. Think about it. For like 70 years, the US was basically the world's manager, right? Protecting shipping lanes, keeping currency stable, that whole deal. But now, the US is less and less willing to pay for all that. And the countries that could maybe step up, like China or Europe or Russia, they're either unable or just unwilling to take on that role themselves. And when you don't have a global referee, you get what some analysts are calling a polycrisis. It's this world where all these regional powers start pushing the boundaries, seeing what they can get away with. And crises that, used to be contained, they suddenly spread and start feeding into each other. So it's not one big fire, it's dozens of smaller ones all burning at once, with absolutely no one around to put them out. And you know what? We have seen this exact kind of pattern before. World War II didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was born from the economic punishment that came after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles basically choked Germany with reparations. Then, the Wall Street crash in 1929 pulled the plug on all those American loans, and the German economy just suffocated. The war that came next was a direct, predictable result of that systemic failure. Okay, so let's shift gears and look at the new front lines. This conflict is being fought across a bunch of interconnected fronts, and each one is a strategic choke point. So it's really important to get this. These are not isolated events. Venezuela, that's a fight for oil. Iran, that's all about controlling the Strait of Hormuz, which is a massive choke point for, 20% of the world's oil? And then you have Taiwan, where China's military drills are basically dress rehearsals for a blockade, threatening the entire global supply of semiconductors. See? Each one is a different tactic, but it's all part of the same global struggle for control. So all these geopolitical hotspots, they create this massive systemic shock that feeds right into the global economy. It basically turns the whole thing into a giant pressure cooker. And look, here's why all this should matter to you. Every single blockade, every sanction, every tanker seizure, it sends ripples absolutely everywhere. Suddenly, freight costs spike. Insurance premiums for shipping, they double. Energy prices start swinging all over the place. Inflation, which we thought was tamed, comes roaring back. Global markets start to crack, stocks plunge, and the risk of just doing business anywhere skyrockets to levels we haven't seen since the 2008 financial crisis. This is where that abstract conflict becomes very, very real. So this isn't just a series of random, unfortunate accidents. As the source material puts it, and I think this is key, this wasn't chaos, it was engineering. It's a calculated systemic unraveling where powerful countries believe they can use force, whether it's military or economic, to completely redraw the map of power. All of this, it all points to one single, unavoidable conclusion. The rules of global power have fundamentally changed. Look, the old world order, for all its flaws, it was at least based on some kind of rules, right? Treaties, mutual restraint. But this new world order, it's based on raw power projection and control. The weapons aren't just tanks and cannons anymore. Now, the weapons are sanctions, blockades, and who controls the oil routes.
So, the key takeaway here is this: what we're watching unfold is not just another series of regional wars. This is a fundamental global reordering where economic warfare has become the main event, the primary battlefield.
This whole brutal new reality really proves one thing. Power isn't won on the traditional battlefields anymore. It's won on oil shipping lanes, it's won through financial sanctions, and it's won by controlling the strategic choke points of the global economy. And that leaves all of us with a deeply unsettling question for the future. In a world without rules, what comes next?